So as we said at the end of the last episode, it seems that Anderson had a thing about predicting pirate radios going off into space in the near future.
This episode follows one such pirate radio, one that's set in space aboard a rogue satellite. A guy by the name of Ricochet.
Ricochet!
Yes.
Irish fella, I guess. But yeah, he hosts a rather popular pirate radio show, which catches the attention of Tintin quite frequently throughout this episode.
And it seems a very 60s thing. It looks as if Anderson felt the whole vibe of the 60s was still going to be alive 100 years in the future. I mean, you've got Tintin saying that he's playing songs by groups like Michelle and the Asteroids, which sounded a lot like things like Josie and the Pussycats or
Jem and the Holograms, stuff like
or
that.
Jess and the Ancient Ones, a very good occult band. Look that up.
Groovy.
Yeah.
So anyway, Ricochet and his, I guess, disc jockey, what was the guy's name?
I don't know.
I don't know. Well,
He seems like a pretty lost character, this guy.
yeah. Well, yeah, he's pretty much O'Shea's fall guy. But anyway, they're both put in peril when they are caught in the middle of an explosion which was detonated by a space testing company. They detonated a rocket around about the same altitude that O'Shea was piloting his station, and the explosion knocks them into collision course with Earth, and they can't slow themselves down because the parachutes are faulty.
The idea of this is that because it's a pirate radio, it can't be picked up by any of the satellites being launched or run by the international system, which is something that Jeff makes a bit of a speech on early on in the episode. So it kind of brought up some of the debate about people pirating movies and music today, just like how people were probably pirating music back then just by listening to all these illegal radio stations.
Yeah. So anyway, on top of this, they can't exactly call for help either because Thunderbird 5 is taken out of commission and needs to be repaired for something like 3 hours.
Yeah.
And so not only is communication severed with anyone from the outside world talking to International Rescue, but the Thunderbirds can't communicate between each other either, so this proves something of a dilemma when it comes to getting in touch with O'Shea and his disc jockey.
And it seems such a huge problem with communication. We see John speaking with Gordon's voice.
It looks like we'll be another 2 hours before we're back in business. In the meantime, International Rescue is non-operational.
And on top of that, we see Virgil flying Thunderbird 3.
Yeah, what on earth was going on? Was this like a day off or something, or was it like a day where everyone just swapped around roles or something? Did everyone get bored?
They should have called this episode Freaky Friday on Tracy Island.
I mean, but then getting back to the plot, I mean, it looks as if that O'Shea is in danger, and his associate decides to go out and take a look, survey the damage. But when trying to get back in, the airlock does not work, so O'Shea is being not very tech savvy. He can't open up the door and he doesn't know what to do, so instead he just sends out an immediate call for help, which is strangely reached through Tintin's portable television and radio.
Tintin, being fascinated and in love with the dreamy, the minty O'Shea, as she describes him, is listening in to his show constantly and manages to pick up the distress signal. She informs the Tracys and they all fly off, Scott and Alan in Thunderbird 3 and Virgil and Brains in Thunderbird 2 to intercept.
Yeah, the idea is that they're going to stop the craft from hitting one of the biggest oil refineries in the Middle East. So they're going to try and move it out of the way so that it crashes into the desert. And so we got Alan and Scott going up there. Scott saves the man in danger, and he's going back for O'Shea. But then we don't really see how he gets the man off, how he gets O'Shea off the space station. But we then see Brains and Virgil in Thunderbird 2 trying to make sure that the space station does not crash into the refinery, and they start debating about kind of like the greatest good for the greatest number to an extent.
Yeah, the most interesting part of the episode is they still believe that O'Shea is on board the satellite just as it's about to crash into the oil refinery, and they have to make the choice whether to pick one life over many lives. A real Spock, Kobayashi Maru moment. The needs of the many, do they outweigh the needs of the few?
A very utilitarian sort of way, if you've ever looked at this in philosophy, greatest good for the greatest number, what's the best way to do, the pleasure outweighs the many.
So they decide with much pain and anguish that they have to sacrifice O'Shea to save the people in the oil refinery.
So you see a very upset Virgil and Brains returning to Tracy Island when everyone else seems quite happy.
Yeah, that's right. So they arrive, having veered the space station off course, making it crash into the desert, and they're like, we had to kill O'Shea to save everyone in the oil refinery. At which point Jeff Tracy points out that he's still alive and well, and Alan goes into detail explaining just how he managed to get him off of the space station, and how what they thought was his normal voice was actually just a pre-recording that he accidentally turned on in the heat of the moment.
Yes, and by the look of things, when you see O'Shea thanking International Rescue on live TV, we can see probably how Alan got him out of there in all of his jealousness.
Sporting a hell of a shiner, which we can only imagine was taken in by Alan.
And he claims he did it in the line of duty, not just to win back Tintin's heart through his jealousy.
How many Eddie Houseman, Cass Carnaby?
Oh dear.
Alan comes up against a lot of rivals for Tintin's affections.
I had to make him see reason.
Tut, tut. Sure, Alan, sure.
I did it in the line of duty.
Alan.
Well, this was a very interesting episode because it was up in space again, and as you know, there aren't that many space episodes because Jerry Anderson didn't like him that much. And yeah, I guess this is quite interesting because I don't think Thunderbird 1 appeared in this one at all, and I can't think of any other episode where that's happened.
I think it was Sun Probe's one of them. Yeah, I think that's about it that comes to mind.
So I guess this episode does belong to Alan and to an extent to Tintin because we see her enjoying herself. There's a scene where she's in the kitchen just dancing along to whichever band is playing. So it looks as if this is one where we learn that she's... we kind of forget that she's the same age as the Tracy brothers, so she likes to boogie every now and again.
Mm-hmm. O'Shea has good taste in music. He's frequently seen playing the Man from MI5 theme tune.
Yes, I thought you'd say that.
Hey, Tintin,
Yes, Mr. Tracy?
turn the volume down a little, will you?
Oh, but it's Michelle and the asteroids. They're great.
I don't know about great, but they're certainly loud.
Kind of reminds me of White as Snow, like the opening to the Captain Scarlet episode, White as Snow, where Captain Scarlet, Lieutenant Green, everyone on Cloud Base is just kicking back, listening to some radio, and they're playing that really awesome White as Snow theme song.
Yes, and then they find out that the satellite's a booby trap. So yeah, this was a quite interesting episode because it combines space, popular music, culture, and an interesting bit of rivalry, and we hear Alan professing his favourite type of professing his talent as being like O'Shea when he talks about how Tintin is the biggest fan.
Rick O'Shea's greatest fan. Tin.
Oh, Alan.
And we
So
also have quite a
cheesy.
bit of product placement as well. Well, not real product placement, but I guess a satire on product placement when all O'Shea and his man has to eat in the space station is Honey Crunch cereal or
Yeah,
something.
because they sell it, and so they've been given a huge, like a year's supply of something just to live on, and he's getting sick of them.
I didn't know that pirate radios could make deals with certain product companies.
Well, you never know, really. I mean,
I suppose it's how they get their funding.
Yeah, I guess some people just like to go independent, or others just like to go full on, thievery.
But it was a great episode, unique premise. Just the idea of pirate radio is something that I guess isn't as explored as much nowadays, with the exception of this great film, The Boat That Rocked.
Oh yeah, great film there. I mean, it's something that our generation we're familiar with, but we're familiar with people like pirating movies and stuff, like taking cameras in and filming stuff. I mean, I'm pretty sure there are people doing loads of what we're doing now, and it got pulled for copyright infringement apparently when they don't realise it's covered by the satire parody clause.
Yeah, like The Boat That Rocks, this episode kind of explores the romantic element of pirate radio versus the legality of the whole thing.
Yeah, it's a very rebellious sort of feel,
But that's what you love about it, isn't it?
Yes, fuck the system.
Fuck the establishment!
But yeah, it was a fun episode, and we really enjoyed watching it again, so it had everything we were expecting, so I think this is the penultimate episode, isn't it?
I think it is. Now you guys stick around for Christmas Eve
Yes.
when we will be putting out the final episode of these beloved Thunderbirds vlogs, give or take 1 million.
Yeah, we'll make it into a bit of a special or something, but we'll just make it as
Nice look
Christmassy
back.
as possible.
But yeah, the end is in sight. We're almost at the finish line, I guess.
Yeah, it has been quite an experience. It's been nice nostalgia trip. I'm sure it has been for you guys.
But yeah, we'll save the big sum up and summary and look back for the final episode, and we'll see you then.
FAB.
FAB.